Best in the business.
Ego.
The ego.
That's ego.
Ego.
Ego hit y'all with another one.
We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxing Ego Unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Cap or fact? Terence Crawford says after he beats Canelo, he has to be placed. His face must be placed on the Mount Rushmore or boxing. Cap. I gotta call Cap. In this video, I will break down why I think that's cap. It's really not hard to explain, especially for the king of boxing talk. But I will humor you and discuss what was considered and a topic brought up by Terence Crawford in this video. So Terence Crawford, they did the press conference. I'm glad it's over so the fighters could get to their training camp and get ready for their fight. Crawford says, and I quote, "After this fight, after I beat Canelo, I'm going to be on Mount Rushmore." End quote. He also, actually, another quote from Crawford, "I'm a way better fighter now. You can doubt me, but I'm sure I'm walking away with my hand raised." End quote. So the conversation is, do you believe Terence Crawford will be in or on the Mount Rushmore of boxing with the Canelo victory? Now, that's big cap to me, right? And I'm not saying it from a hating perspective. I'm just being real because that's what I do on my channel. I know the Bud Buddies are going to get mad. Oh, you're hating. Shut up. Shut the God damn it. Right? Shut up, bro. You're not going to change my opinion with this. For starters, he didn't say Mount Rushmore of my generation. If he would have said something like that, maybe you can maybe say. But I'm not the smartest brother in the world. Mount Rushmore has 4 effing faces. 4. You can't tell me that even if he moves up in weight to fight Canelo Alvarez and defies those odds, that he needs to be on a all-time top 4 Mount Rushmore of boxing. I can't do that, bro. Again, the Bud Buddies, they're gonna get mad. Man, I'm gonna put him on there. I'm gonna put Bud on there. They're gonna be like, I'm putting him on there. Listen, Terence is a very gifted, special, talented fighter. And it's funny because the comments, I don't know, do you fools listen to boxing news from Boxing Ego or do you just skim through it? Because people will be like in the comments, oh, you just hate Crawford. I'm giving the man a compliment. I said he's a talented, skilled, gifted fighter. How is that hating? But I also can say that he's not, even with the Canelo victory, which hasn't happened yet, he ain't going to be on no top 4 Mount Rushmore of all time. Come on, bro. Like, what I believe to be the case is this. One, Terence Crawford has an ego. You know what I mean? The boy got an ego. He is a good fighter, but he has like an inflated sense of accomplishment, and he's going kind of based on stats. But for me, I don't necessarily, when I'm sports in general, I can't go off of, oh, but I made more money than you. You know what I mean? Like, for example, Soulja Boy probably made more money in his heyday, in his prime, than Royce da 5'9". You know what I mean? Per song basis or whatever. Because Soulja Boy was making, like, kiss me through the phone, you know what I mean? And yo, doing all that, right? But me, having a sonic ear for music and wanting to hear real hip hop is something that sonically sounds good or is creative, something that the average person couldn't do, bro, Royce is in a different galaxy than a Soulja Boy as an artist. You know what I mean? So it's kind of the same baseline argument of somebody saying, but Royce didn't sell triple platinum or whatever Soulja Boy did. You know what I mean? You're not going to stat me to death, bro. I don't give about none of that. I don't care if Soulja Boy went diamond. At the end of the day, he not nicer than Royce. Nickel, right? It's just what it is. And if you feel otherwise, you don't know about hip hop, just like a lot of y'all don't know about boxing. It's what it is, right? So I'm not saying berate or disrespect Terence Crawford, but 4 spaces, that's tight. You know what I mean? And like, you got to look at it. For example, how does, and this is where I really chew through the Bud Buddy's argument and destroy him. I destroy him. Here's why. I got a couple things. Leg out. For one, Bivol beat Canelo when he hadn't officially lost since Floyd Mayweather. So 2013 all the way till probably 2023 or whenever they fought, right? So Canelo hadn't officially taken an L for a decade. You dig? Why would Bivol not be on the Mount Rushmore for beating Canelo, but then you beat Canelo and you get on and you're fighting an older Canelo a couple years removed from the Bivol fight after Bivol destroyed him and tore him up, and then Canelo has looked somewhat wilted in some of his recent fights. How do you become a Mount Rushmore when Bivol beat a once beaten Canelo and made it look easy? Then he goes on to fight Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez, who had a crazy record and was undefeated. He dominates him. You know, he has wins over Joe Smith and Jean Pascal, you know, who had a late surge in his career. And then more importantly, recently, he just became undisputed, arguably beating Beterbiev. Some people even had twice. You know, I'm good with them splitting 2 fights, but he's undisputed now. So for real, Bivol got a better resume than you. Bivol beat Canelo a couple years ago, and nobody considered putting him on no top 4 Mount Rushmore of all-time boxing. So the argument is, oh, but Crawford has to move up weight classes to do it. Yeah. And Bivol was at 175. Yeah. But then when we're looking on that, or if that's the argument y'all try to make with the dawn of boxing talk, Ego hit y'all with another one, right? If that's the argument, then I would put Floyd Mayweather before Terence Crawford because he fought an undefeated Canelo who's actually bigger than him, right? Floyd on the fight night weighed like 150. Canelo is going to fight a full-fledged Crawford who not even deep in his camp, he was snack and he looked bigger than Canelo already. You see what I'm saying? So how would I put that over Floyd? To me, it's more of an accomplishment for somebody who started as Pretty Boy Floyd, you know, in the featherweight divisions, and then he's moving up fighting a Canelo, or just like Manny Pacquiao moved up 8 divisions, right? Versus Crawford, he did move up some weight classes, but then he didn't do nothing at 154 for real. He became a champion with the champion in Madrimov, who had 11 fights and had been a champion for like 4 months. Come on, bro. So it seems real manufactured, bro. And again, I would give more credit to Floyd because they say he has brittle hands and can't punch. And we know Canelo was bigger than him and outweighed him on fight night. Judging by how Crawford is looking hulking next to Canelo, I don't know if Canelo is going to outweigh him by a lot. I don't know what his his end game is or his strategy for rehydration after touching the scale. But from early on in the pre-camp status, Crawford looked equal in size to Canelo. So yeah, he's moving up, but he's moving up and he looked big. You know what I mean? So yeah, I can't say that gives you Mount Rushmore. For me, what this is Terence Crawford. He made a lot of kind of questionable decisions in his career, staying with Top Rank. He wasn't getting the fight. So now he didn't get the full on, I guess, respect. He doesn't feel like he's gotten the full on respect. So he's trying to make up for lost times. You know, I knew people like this where we were very young drinking alcohol, right? And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just telling you. I hung out with people who were older than me and stuff. So we were bad and then drinking young when we weren't supposed to be, right? So by the time I actually turned 21, drinking wasn't something I had never done or experimented with. You know what I mean? Like I had already drank alcohol. So by the time I turned 21, I didn't really drink like that. You see what I'm saying? Because it was nothing special. Versus I know some people who were like straight and narrow and they didn't have a sip of alcohol for whatever reason. They played a sport or whatever until later in life, let's say when they were 32. And then some of the people who were disciplined for longer and didn't touch alcohol, they almost became like lushes and alcoholics and would get like blackout drunk and sloppy drunk. It was like, I'm sick of having held back and not drank alcohol for all these years. So it's like you're trying to make up for lost time and cover ground. And I know some of you guys can relate, and you'll know of a person, you'll be like, oh, Johnny, or oh, Samantha. You'll be able to think of somebody who was like a late bloomer to drinking or just going out clubbing or whatever it is. And then they kind of overdo it because it's new to them. I know boxers like that. I'm not going to say nobody's names, but I know boxers, when they were younger, they weren't drinking. You know what I mean? Because they were just boxers. So they were clean cut and they were in tournaments and Golden Gloves and Pan Am games and stuff. They didn't drink at all. But when they got on and then they started having money and jewelry and women wanted them and stuff, and then probably kept the wrong people around them, some of those people started drinking or worse, you know, and poisoning their body and stuff like that as a professional athlete. And I'm sure you could think of athletes right now that you know drink and aren't fully disciplined or haven't always been disciplined in their career. That's what I'm saying, late bloomers. That's what Crawford feels like he's doing. Your whole front half of your career was like very mild, right? You didn't get like the important fights. Like the Gamboa fight was real nice, but he was kind of a smaller dude. Bradis Prescott, John Molina's, and then a lot of people in Crawford's career, especially when he was with Top Rank, he got him at like the back half, like Amir Khan after Canelo knocked him out, and he almost got knocked out by Samuel Vargas. So Khan was kind of washed. Sean Porter was a podcaster on a 450 plus day layoff. You know what I mean? Kell Brook hadn't fought at welterweight in several years and got crushed by Triple G in Arrow and was fighting at 54, and then fired Eddie Hearn and his trainer, got a trainer off Instagram, and then made a weight cut back to 147 that he really probably couldn't make. You know what I mean? So Crawford's whole career has been guys that are kind of like handicapped. Jose Benavidez got shot, bullet to the leg or whatever. Errol Spence got ejected from a car. So a lot of people feel he was kind of damaged going into that fight. He definitely was coming off a detached retina. That can't be denied because that's why it cost him the Manny Pacquiao fight. So this has been Crawford's career, you know? This has been his career. And even Canelo, if we're being honest, Canelo is not in his prime. He's not in his prime at all. We can't say Canelo looks better and sharper in his last several fights now than when he was fighting Triple G 1 and 2 and Danny Jacobs and fights like that, right? So Crawford is saying he expects to get on Mount Rushmore with the Canelo victory. He's like the only one that I feel feels that way. Him or other people from Nebraska and Omaha. I don't think anyone can rate. I mean, we got Ray Robinson. You got Julio Cesar Chavez, Salvador Sanchez, Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones. You know, some of these guys had almost 100 fights, over 100 fights. It's just so many legends. Manny Pacquiao, Ray Leonard, Ray Robinson, Roberto Duran Hagler, heavyweights. I mean, honestly, you really think that a win over Canelo is going to put you on Mount Rushmore? Come on, I don't see it. Another thing, too, for me is this, is Canelo is cool, but Canelo has never been unbeatable. In fact, Canelo has several like draws or losses or wins that should have been losses, in my opinion. So basically what I'm saying is Canelo lost more times than his record shows. He lost the Edislandi Lara fight, but it shows he won. I thought he lost to Triple G in the first fight. Some people even had him losing both the first and second Triple G fight. Hell no, guys. Hell, Max, big drama, guys. Right? They even tried to job Bivol, but Bivol dominated him so crazy, it would have looked too bad if they really took that from him. You know what I mean? So for me, I feel like beating Canelo should definitely have more losses, put it that way. He definitely has more losses than his record indicates. So I get it. You're going to get credit, some credit for moving up if you are able to beat him, but not no Mount Rushmore credit. You'll get Mount Rushmore credit if you beat David Benavidez, because dudes at 168 can't stand in there with him. Dudes at 75 are having a hard time with him. You know what I'm saying? So like, he's like, David Benavidez is like almost like the old Canelo, where he's at right now, he's peaking and he got a lot more to offer. Canelo, he didn't look good. I can tell you several fights. He didn't look great to me versus John Ryder. He flattened out in the Munguia and Berlanga fights in the late rounds where he looked good, but then he kind of just tapered off. The Kovalev fight, they both look horrible. You know what I mean? So it's like, this is another reason why it's a dumb fight for me. It's not much to be gained. If Canelo go in there and knock this boy out, then it's going to be like, okay, you couldn't do that to David Benavidez though. You know what I mean? You're not doing that to David Morrell, Diego Pacheco, actual 168, 175 pounders, divisions you fought at. What is it accomplished by beating a smaller Crawford? And I can't even, in this instance, for once, I can't even really blame Canelo, because Canelo expressed publicly that he didn't really care for this fight because he assumes all the risk and there's no real benefit for him. But money talks. Turkey offered him a paycheck that he couldn't refuse. So here we are. And then for Crawford, like I said, you'll get some credit. But Canelo, most people have said this for years, Canelo is, before we even knew Crawford was fighting him. See, this is what the Bud Buddies do. They'll be like, oh, you're hating. Go look at the videos. I didn't even know Bud was getting a Canelo fight when he was fighting Kovalev. But the videos are up on my page where I was discussing that fight, and I said it was FAF, and they both look sloppy and look horrible, right? I assessed Canelo in the John Ryder performance and said he was at home in Mexico. He probably should have got a stoppage, you know? And then Munguia then fights John Ryder and stops him. You know what I mean? So before I even knew Bud was getting a Canelo fight, I said the same things about Canelo that I'm saying here. So you can't even try that with me. And if you want to, then you can try, but you're going to look dumb because the breadcrumbs, aka my body of work, my life's work, is on the internet, and you could go revisit those videos. And I was saying, I don't delete nothing. So I was already saying what I'm saying now when it happened. So for me, this does not give Bud Crawford the Willy Wonka golden ticket to Mount Rushmore by beating Canelo. I don't care if you knock out Canelo. That's not getting you on not my Mount Rushmore. I don't know about y'all. Again, we'll clap and celebrate like, hey, you did the thing. But how do you get it? But Beevil didn't get on Mount Rushmore for a minute. Floyd beat Canelo when he was undefeated as the smaller person, and that one win didn't just put him up on Mount Rushmore. You know, I think, again, Crawford is trying to stat you to death, but in sports, that's not how it's always like gonna work out. You know what I mean? When someone just like, I'm sure you could find, like, let's say JJ Redick. I'm sure he has some kind of stat that is superior to Steph Curry, right? But no one that knows basketball, that knows hoops, is going to say, for real, that JJ Redick is a better and higher, more legendary shooter than Steph Curry. He's a good shooter, but I don't care what statistic you come up with, he's not nicer than Steph Curry, period. But I'm sure there's some statistic that would favor him. And that's what Crawford tries to survive off of. Man, I was the first 2X undisputed. You were. But you also fought the African Somali pirate from the Tom Hanks movie. Hey, listen to me. I'm the captain of the ship now. You had a fight here in Dongo or whatever. Did we get him? It does smell like ish, doesn't it? Right? That's how you fought in order to get the first undisputed. You think people don't pay attention to how it happened? Usyk had to fight Big Old Fury to become undisputed because he had the WBC belt. We can't act like that's the same as fighting in Dongo. And then you destroyed Errol, you tore him up, great job. But people kind of put an asterisk by that because we know deep down inside that wasn't the Errol Spence that fought Kell Brook. Period. And it's not Crawford's fault. He didn't make Errol make the choices that he made or, you know, get thrown from a moving vehicle. That was a personal choice. So we're not blaming Crawford for Errol Spence's actions, but we also aren't omitting him from the conversation. That's the elephant in the room. You know, so the Bud Buddies and Crawford, they can say whatever they want. Do you think Errol was 100% and he was the same fighter from the Kell Brook fight that Bud fought? And it just was Bud won every round, basically. I personally don't believe that. I think Errol Spence had been battling demons ever since the Sean Porter fight ended, you know, but I'll save that for another conversation. I said that to say this. Unfortunately, nothing you could do versus a Canelo would put you on a Mount Rushmore. You know what I mean? Because remember when Canelo was saying that he wanted to move up and fight at cruiserweight? That's the same kind of thing. Is like people in boxing now, they're trying to get placed in the historic. Like, no doubt Crawford will be a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? But they want higher placement, and they're trying to like finagle it and do certain things and make certain moves that they feel are critical to like pad the stat a little bit, right? Like Canelo, imagine if Canelo won at cruiserweight. That would be like freakish that a person that started pretty much at welterweight moved up to cruiserweight, but then you're fighting a Makobuk Air or whatever, Makobuk Pro, right? So we have to take all these things into consideration. You know what I mean? And I feel like there's a lot of people, fair play to them. I guess if it can convince some of their fans that they're the illest ever, then so be it. But for me, a lifelong boxing fan, I mean, I don't even put Crawford where like Roy Jones is. Now, Roy Jones, only difference is he continued to fight and he moved up to heavyweight and then dropped back down, Tarver, blah, blah, blah. But from 88 to early 2000s, Roy was like God tier. God tier. Crawford's run that he's had from top ranked days to now is not like Roy Jones's run or Pacquiao's run or Floyd's run, right? Or Sugar Ray Leonard's run or Ray Robinson's run. So how on earth, when there's only 4 seats at the table, how do you think a win over Canelo is going to get your face on the Mount Rushmore of boxing? It could get you respect. It could get you millions. It can get people to be like, oh, I love the way Crawford fights. I'm not mad at none of that. But Mount Rushmore, when you have fighters fighting 100 rounds, unlimited rounds, 15 rounders, fighting without today's like sports medicine, supplementation, and gear, and obviously people are cheating. Some people are cheating with undetectables. You know what I mean? It's just a different game. I can't put that over some of the legends from yesteryear that we know earned it out the mud. I think Crawford made a lot of poor choices career-wise, and then now Turkey's taking a liking to him, and he's trying to make up for the time where his career wasn't as bright. Like, I'm making the most money I've ever made. Like Crawford, if you look at it, he, up until recently, like the Errol Spence fight, he hadn't really been in a big fight. Like, I'm talking about like a fight where the year he fought was the biggest fight of the year. Even when he fought Spence, that was the same year Tank fought Ryan Garcia. So you didn't even have the biggest fight then. This perhaps will be the first time you've ever had the biggest fight for the year, potentially, and it's because of Canelo. You know what I mean? And these are the facts. I know some of you guys don't want the truth. You don't want to hear it. You say I'm hating, whatever. Leave all that in the comment section. I get paid the same. It don't matter. But again, I'm not dissing or berating Crawford. I'm just telling you, I'm not putting him in one of 4 spaces because you beat Canelo. Again, this is what is fickle about boxing. You got people trying to sell you stuff. This is why it's turning me off from the fight. I got so many bad vibes about this fight. I don't know how to describe it. Some people will say, oh, you're just hating it, whatever. We gonna see. I have such a strong bad feeling about this fight. We're gonna see how it plays out though. And last time I had a bad feeling was Haney Garcia, and you see how that show played out. But I don't know. I feel like I don't like when people try to force things. Like they're saying, oh, this is the greatest fight of the century in the era. Crawford saying that he's going to be on Mount Rushmore by beating Canelo. Listen, the world wanted Canelo to fight David Benavidez. He's fighting you because you're smaller and he's getting a boatload of money, period. This whole fight seems dumb. It seems forced, and they're trying to make it out to be bigger than what it is, and almost like fake it till you make it. That's what it feels like, a fake it till you make it fight. Put a bunch of expensive sets and backdrops and lights, and go post heavy, and yeah, we'll convince the public. Put it in the Allegiant Stadium. Yeah, it's a cool fight, but it to me, it just feels, I'm not super juiced for it because it feels like a reach. It feels like a fight that, like Turkey, this is Turkey's video game, you know what I mean? And he just has the money to make this video game fight come to life, and that's what he did. But I really feel like this fight will be a bust, but we'll see how it all plays out. Crawford can't make it to my Mount Rushmore, no matter what happens with Canelo. That's just being real. If you disagree, intelligently explain how Crawford makes it to one of 4 seats on your Mount Rushmore for beating Canelo, who arguably should have lost to Triple G once or twice, lost and got destroyed by Floyd, Bivol, should have lost to Lada, didn't look good in certain recent fights like John Ryder, fatigues, popped dirty and failed a drug test. Like, how does a win over this, and he's not the biggest 168, and he ducked David Benavidez? They're really trying to force it, man. But we gonna keep talking about it. Ego hit y'all with another one. We unpacked.